Hello, and welcome to my fireside book talk. This is for November 2016, and I'm going to be talking about the things that I've been reading lately. So, before we get started, this is my rating scale. So, I'm going to give a book 5 stars if I loved it, 4 stars if I liked it, 3 if it was okay. I can't really imagine sharing ones that I didn't like, but I guess if I think someone else might really enjoy the book, I could potentially share it. So, the first book I want to talk about today is Orbiting Jupiter. I absolutely love this book. It's a more recent book. It's from 2015. So, here's a few little things about it. When Jack meets his new foster brother, he already knows 3 things about him. Joseph almost killed a teacher. He was incarcerated or in prison at a place called Stone Mountain. He has a daughter. Her name is Jupiter, and he has never seen her. I'm going to read just a little teaser out of this book, and it's up there too on the smartboard so that you can follow along. Here's chapter 1. Before you agree to have Joseph come live with you, Mrs. Strode said, there are 1 or 2 things you ought to understand. She took out a State of Maine, Department of Health and Human Services folder and laid it on the kitchen table. My mother looked at me for a long time. Then she looked at my father. He put his hand on my back. Jack should know what we're getting into. Same as us, he said. He looked down at me. Maybe you more than anyone. My mother nodded, and Mrs. Stroud opened the folder. This is what she told us. 2 months ago, when Joseph was at Adams Lake Juvenile, a kid gave him something bad in the boys' bathroom. He went into a stall and swallowed it. After a long time, his teacher came looking for him. When she found him, he screamed. She said, he'd better come out of that stall right now. He screamed again. She said, he'd better come out of that stall right now unless he wanted more trouble. So he did. Then he tried to kill her. They sent Joseph to Stone Mountain, even though he did what he did because the kid gave him something bad and he swallowed it. But that didn't matter. They sent him to Stone Mountain anyway. He won't talk about what happened to him there, but since he left Stone Mountain, he won't wear anything orange. He won't let anyone stand behind him. He won't let anyone touch him. He won't go into rooms that are too small, and he won't eat canned peaches. He's not very big on meatloaf either, said Mrs. Stroud, and she closed the State of Maine Department of Health and Human Services folder. He'll eat my mother's canned peaches, I said. Mrs. Stroud smiled. We'll see, she said. Then she put her hand on mine. Jack, your parents know this, and you should too. There's something else about Joseph. What? I said. He has a daughter. I felt my father's hand against my back. She's almost 3 months old, but he's never seen her. That's one of the biggest heartbreaks in this case. Mrs. Stroud handed the folder to my mother. Mrs. Hurd, I'll leave this with you. Read it, and then you can decide. Call me in a few days if... We've talked this over, said my mother. We already know. Are you sure? My mother nodded. We're sure, my father said. Mrs. Stroud looked at me. How about you, Jack? My father's hand still against my back. How soon can he come? I said. So again, I've really, really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it. I absolutely loved it. The next book that I'm going to present is Hex Hall. This is a book that I'm giving 4 stars to. I like it. It's from 2010, and it's a book in a series. So I'm going to read just a little bit about it. Sophie Mercer has moved around a lot, but a prom night spell gone wrong lands her at Hex Hall. Hex Hall is a reform school for delinquent and unruly witches, fairies, shapeshifters, etc. There are currently 4 books in the series, and I like this one so much that I've already read the second one, which is Demon Glass. So, just a little snippet here from the back. By the end of her first day, Sophie has quite a scorecard. 3 powerful enemies who look like supermodels, a futile crush on a gorgeous warlock, a creepy tag-along ghost, and a new roommate who happens to be the most hated person and only vampire on campus. Then, when a mysterious predator begins attacking students, and Sophie's only friend is the number 1 suspect, a horrifying plot begins to surface. Soon, Sophie is Sophie is preparing for the biggest threat of all, an ancient secret society determined to destroy all supernaturals, including her. So again, I really enjoyed this one, and there's 4 books right now that are already out. There could be more, depending on if the author is writing more books in the series. The 3rd book I'm going to talk about is Wolf Brother. I absolutely love this book. I've read it multiple times. It is a little bit older. It's from 2004, but there's 6 books in the series, and they are all available right now. So again, I absolutely love this. It takes place 6,000 years ago when evil is stalking the land. According to legend, only Torek and his wolf cub companion can defeat it. I would categorize this book as a prehistoric wilderness survival adventure. The book begins with Torek's father dying in a brutal bear attack. In his father's last moments, Torek promises to find the mountain of the world spirit or die trying. And it takes him along here. This is a map that's in the book. And this is the first book in a series of 6. So, again, I highly recommend this book. What I'm currently reading is this book. As you can see, I'm getting pretty close to the end. I am really enjoying it. I have the next 2 in this series too. I'm excited because I plan to go to the movie after I finish the book. And then what's on deck or what's next and on my nightstand to read is this book. I'm excited to read this one too. Both of this book and the one I'm going to be reading next are recommendations. So please, if you have any recommendations for me, please let me know because I love getting book recommendations. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.